In 2015, Nicole Kidman's daughter got married. Nicole wasn't there. She found out the way you would, by reading about it. For 10 years, she'd raised that little girl as her own, bathed her, fed her, built her whole film career around the school run. Then, slowly, the two children she'd given everything to stopped calling her mom. Not after one fight, not because she walked away, but because something was pulling them out of her arms that she couldn't fight, and a man who, those close to them say, chose it over her. By the time the world noticed, it was already over. Her son built an entire adult life, and she learned about most of it the way the rest of us did, from the same headlines. This isn't a story about a custody battle. It's a story about a woman who gave up everything to build a family and then watched that family get taken apart piece by an institution that never wanted her there in the first place. Nicole Kidman wanted children more than almost anything. She's spoken, carefully and rarely, about the early struggles, the pregnancies she lost, the heartbreak of trying and failing. So when she and Tom Cruise adopted their daughter Isabella in 1992, and then their son Connor in 1995, this wasn't a celebrity accessory story. This was a woman who'd been denied motherhood by her own body, finally getting the family she'd wanted with everything in her. She poured herself into it. Friends from that era have said Nicole was the parent who stayed home. She was the one at the school runs. She was the one who rearranged her shooting schedule so she could be there for birthdays and first days of school. She was the one the kids ran to when they got hurt. This is the woman we're talking about. Not a distant Hollywood mother who handed the children off to nannies, but one who'd fought to have this, and once she had it, held on with both hands. When Nicole met Tom Cruise, she was 22, and he was already one of the biggest stars on the planet. They met on the set of Days of Thunder in 1989. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, they were inseparable. He proposed within months. They married on Christmas Eve in 1990, in a ceremony so private that almost no photographs of it exist. For about a decade, they were Hollywood royalty. They worked together, walked red carpets, hand in hand, built homes in Colorado and Los Angeles, and they raised Isabella and Connor inside all of it. Nicole has said she loved him completely. "I was young," she once admitted. "I was completely swept up in it. I believed we'd be together forever." But there was a third presence in that marriage almost from the start, and it wasn't another woman. It was an institution. What Nicole didn't fully understand at the time was that, according to former members, that institution operated in ways that made it nearly impossible to keep both the man and the children if she stayed an outsider. Tom Cruise had been a Scientologist since 1986. By the time he married Nicole, he was the most famous member of the Church of Scientology in the world. According to people who've left that organization and spoken out since, the church didn't just value Tom Cruise. It needed him. He was the face. He was the prize. And the people running it weren't about to let anyone pull him away. The children grew up inside that world. They were surrounded by it, shaped by it, from the time they could walk. For years, Nicole tried to hold it all together. The marriage, the family, a faith she never fully belonged to. She tried to be enough, to love hard enough, to mother well enough that it wouldn't matter. But according to former senior Scientology officials, the church's leadership viewed Nicole as a problem, an outsider, someone who was pulling Tom away from where he was supposed to be. So slowly, according to those same officials, the pressure began. It wasn't loud and it wasn't public, just a steady, quiet wedge that Nicole didn't even fully see until it was too late. She was raising two children inside a system that, by multiple accounts, had already decided she didn't belong. And the cruelest part is that for years, she didn't know. She thought love would be enough, that being a good mother would be enough, that the family she was building every single day would be stronger than whatever was happening in the world around it. She was wrong. Somewhere in the late 1990s, something began to shift. Nicole felt it first in small ways. Tom traveled more. The marriage started to feel less like a partnership and more like a performance they were both trapped inside. She later described those final years in language that still cuts. She said she walked around in a daze. The man she'd married was changing into someone she couldn't always reach, and the home she'd built, the life she'd poured everything into, was being quietly rearranged around her without her ever being handed the blueprint. Then came 1998, and according to former members, Nicole was told she wasn't welcome at a church event Tom was attending. She stayed home, he went. It was the first time she felt the door beginning to close. Not slammed, just a door that had been open her entire marriage, suddenly narrowing inch by inch. What happened next would take years to fully reveal itself, but through all of it, she still believed the children would always be hers. Whatever happened between the adults, Isabella and Connor would always know who their mother was. The years she'd spent raising them, loving them, protecting them would matter more than anything else. What she didn't yet know was how wrong that belief would turn out to be. Then came 2001, and Tom Cruise filed for divorce. Nicole has said she found out in a way that blindsided her. By her own account, she didn't see it coming until it was nearly done. One day she was a wife and mother inside a marriage she thought would last forever, and the next she was facing the end of all of it, in public with the whole world watching. The marriage ending was survivable. Nicole was young, talented, and had her whole career still ahead of her. She could rebuild a life. What she couldn't survive losing was her children. That, it turned out, was exactly what was on the table. In the years that followed the divorce, Isabella and Connor stayed close to their father. They stayed inside the church, and piece by piece, the two children Nicole had raised from infancy began to slip out of her reach. There was no single screaming match, no courtroom moment where a judge made a ruling and the door slammed shut. Instead, there were birthdays that got quieter, phone calls that got shorter, then rarer, holidays spent somewhere else, a daughter's wedding in 2015 that her mother wasn't part of, a son who built an entire adult life she watched mostly from the outside, learning about milestones the way a stranger would, secondhand, through the same press the rest of us read. The children grew distant according to multiple reports over the years. And what haunts this story is what former Scientologists have warned about for decades, the practice of disconnection, where a member is encouraged to cut off the people in their life deemed harmful to their faith. The church has always denied that anyone is forced to do anything, but the result for Nicole was a son and a daughter who drifted further and further from the woman who raised them, while staying anchored to the world their father lived in. There's a particular cruelty to losing someone this way. If it had been one terrible fight, she could have apologized or fought back or at least understood it. If it had been a clean court ruling, she could have appealed it. But there was nothing to push against, just a steady, quiet widening of the distance, year after year, with no single moment where she could stand in the doorway and say, "No, not this, not my children." Picture what that does to a mother. Reading about your own daughter's wedding in a newspaper, learning your son's milestones the way the rest of the world does, after the fact, from people who don't even know you exist. These weren't children she'd given up. These were children she'd wanted desperately, raised devotedly, and then watched recede into a world she was never allowed to follow them into. She didn't lose them in a single afternoon. She lost them the way you lose someone to a slow tide, a little more gone each year, until one day you realize how far out they've drifted and how little of the rope you ever held. So how did Nicole Kidman respond to all of this? This is where the story stops being only sad and starts being something else entirely. She didn't go to war in the press. She never gave the tell-all interview, never stood in front of a camera and named names and tore the whole thing apart, even though of anyone alive, she may have had the most reason to. Friends say she made a decision early, and she's held to it ever since. She would never make her children choose, and she'd never give them a reason to stay away. When she does speak about Isabella and Connor, which is rarely, she speaks like a woman holding a door open that she knows might never be walked through. In one interview, she said, "They are adults. They're able to make their own decisions. They've made choices to be Scientologists, and as a mother, it's my job to love them." Listen to what's underneath that. What she decided was that whatever happened, her love would be the one thing that never came with conditions. If the day ever comes when Isabella or Connor want to come home, Nicole made sure there'd be nothing in the way. No bitterness, no public scorched earth, just an open door and a light left on. And quietly, away from all of it, she did the other thing too. She built the family she'd been denied. She married Keith Urban in 2006. She had 2 daughters, Sunday and Faith. She got to be, every single day, the present, hands-on, name the teacher's mother she'd always been at heart. The thing they tried to take from her, she went and built again. And this time, nobody could touch it. This is where the contrast does all the work, because you don't have to take a single side to feel it. Tom Cruise has the world's biggest movie career, but according to multiple reports over the years, his own contact with Isabella and Connor became limited as their adult lives went on. So the painful irony sits right there in the open. The institution at the center of all of it kept the children, and the 2 parents who once posed together as Hollywood royalty both ended up, in different ways, on the outside of those 2 lives. But there's a difference between the 2 of them that matters. One of them publicly campaigned for the world he chose, the institution that demanded loyalty above everything else. The other one quietly went home and poured everything she had left into two little girls who'd grow up knowing their mother by heart, never once doubting who she was or where she'd be. Nicole in Nashville at school pickup. Isabella and Connor, somewhere far away, behind walls she was never allowed past. Two versions of motherhood, and only one of them built on a foundation nobody could take away. Nicole Kidman didn't lose her children because she was a bad mother. By every account that exists, she was a devoted one. She lost them to something far bigger than any single person, a force with more reach and more patience than love alone could fight. An institution that worked slowly enough that there was never one moment to push back against, never one clear line she could stand on and say, no, not this, not my children. And the lesson she leaves, the thing that lands for anyone who's ever watched a child drift toward a world they couldn't follow them into, is this: sometimes you can't win them back. Sometimes all you can do is refuse to slam the door, refuse to make the love conditional, and keep the porch light on for as long as you're alive. That isn't weakness. It's the hardest, most stubborn kind of love there is. The one thing that no institution, no divorce, and no distance can ever take away. She never stopped being their mother. They just stopped being able to call her one. And she carried that, with grace and silence, year after year. He kept the fame, he kept the headlines, he kept the institution that demanded everything from him. But she walked away with something he could never buy back. Her peace, her dignity, a family that nobody would ever take from her again. So what do you think? If you were Nicole, would you have stayed silent and kept the door open? Or would you have fought the whole thing out loud, no matter the cost? Tell me in the comments, because I genuinely want to know how you'd have carried this. And if this story moved you, subscribe, because next we're telling the story of another famous mother who lost years with her children to a battle she never asked for, and how she finally got them back. Picture it last time. A school pickup line in Nashville where two little girls run toward their mother every single day. A wedding in London her daughter walked into without her. Two lives, two families. Nicole Kidman never got to choose which one she lived. She only got to choose how she loved through both of them. And she chose the open door every time.